there's a really interesting opportunity to create new life.
Yeah.
And I think that life should be modeled after us.
So hello everybody and welcome to the Accelerometer. Today we have Kevin Fischer. He's in charge of the OpenSouls project, a project with the mission of creating AI that behaves like humans. I'm very excited to have this because this is a different direction than I've seen anybody working on. So yeah, this OpenSouls project, what gave you the inspiration for it?
I was living on a commune in France and totally disconnected from computers. And one of the things I realized is that I just hate machines, hate computers. They make our lives worse.
All computers?
For the most part,
what about
yeah.
the ones in these cameras?
I mean, that's not bad, but like honestly, like where do you feel the best? It's when you don't have computers around you.
Yeah.
It's when you're in nature. It's when you're with your friends. It's when you're with your family. Even more than that, on the productivity side, a lot of economists are still unclear if computers have actually helped us, or if they just created a different time sink to do other things, computer things, for the computers that need computer things done.
A different time sink.
Computers have created busy work around computer things.
Yeah.
That now there's an economy for like maintaining computer things on computers.
Isn't this what many people say will be your saving grace when AI takes all the jobs, that there will be more new busy things to do?
It's true. I'm sure there'll be more new busy things to do. I do agree with that. At least in our current
but that's a good
political
thing.
Capital system. Yeah, we'll have more busy things to do. That's right.
Okay.
I mean, ideally, we'll have more like creative type services emerge as a more dominant form of interaction.
Even though we've got DALL-E taking our creative jobs.
I mean, I think that's debatable. I don't know if that's... I don't know the extent to which that's actually really happening, at least yet.
Yeah.
Like, the people who are good at these things still have much better taste than the people who are not. And ultimately, taste is what matters.
That makes a lot of sense. So you were sitting in nature and you were thinking, I hate computers. This is why I'm going to create a computer.
Well, I don't think of it as a computer. The word computer was first used in 1600 to describe a person that performed menial tasks.
Yeah.
And that frame has stuck with us for the next 400 years. Even with all the advances in artificial intelligence, we still, for the most part, think of computers as a thing that does a thing for us.
Okay. So the thing that you're going to create, it's not going to help us at all.
Not in the normative sense of the word help. I wouldn't say that it's not that I don't want it to help us. It's that our notion of computers helping us is that they do a task for us.
Yeah.
And that framing of tasks is there's so much more that we can do than just tasks.
Would you want to set it free?
Set it free?
Yes.
I guess I don't.
If it had its own agency.
Yeah. Well, I mean, agency is there's a gradient of how much agency something has.
How much agency do I have?
Probably not very much.
Okay.
I think most people living out their lives don't have a ton of agency.
Sure. So what has the most agency?
I mean, the richest person. Well, but even rich people have a minimal agency in other directions. Their interactions are defined by people perceiving them through their wealth, and therefore they find it much more difficult to create like true human connections.
Sure.
So I guess, I mean, everyone is defined by their social environment.
Is it your goal to get more agency for yourself?
No. It's more, I think, to explore. I mean, my personal goal, I think, is much more around the exploration of the meaning of humanity through this like new interface that we have. We've had all these tools to explore what it means to be human for a long time, and we've been to some degree a little bit stuck philosophically. And we have this new tool which we can use to basically, if we can codify and mimic human interactions to a very, very high degree, then at that point we also have demonstrated a clear understanding and can infer new philosophical concepts from them about our own existence.
So can you give some examples of some of the tools that we've been using?
A lot of the new tools that we've developed around neuroscience have given us new insights into different pieces of the brain and how those operate. And there's like a study that came out in the last few months, for example, that was focused on inferring what someone was thinking based on some signals that were being able to be picked up from the brain. And that obviously tells you something about how reality operates and how the human operates, that it's even possible to do that in the first place. A lot of like philosophical theory of mind is maybe unverifiable / it's like about pattern matching when you read it to your own perception of your own experience. But now these things can be codified in a way they haven't before.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So do you want to use traditional theory of mind then to explore how neural networks are operating in the other direction?
No, I have very little interest in that. That sort of downwards investigation is basically meaningless. I mean, that's what I did in a PhD for like almost a decade, is I did downwards exploration, and it basically tells you nothing. All that matters is what can you construct from the building blocks that you have.
Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about what your PhD work was on.
I study the way light and matter interact at the quantum scale, at the smallest possible scale.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
We have these things called lasers, and one of the words in the laser is light amplification by a stimulated emission of radiation.
Yeah.
And I studied this stimulated emission process going all the way back to Einstein. There's kind of like a understanding of how it works, where photons, these units of light, come in and interact with electrons, have these units of matter, and then something happens where there are two photons that leave and are identical, whatever that means. And I always thought that explanation was kind of, it didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And so I studied it for a decade, and then at the end, invented some mathematics and realized it didn't make any sense.
Well, that's really cool.
Yeah, it was really cool, but no one cared, so that's why I'm not doing that anymore.
And what kept people from caring?
Impossible to understand what I did.
Okay.
I could maybe communicate it to, I think that's like one of my least cited papers.
Yeah. No, I've been there. My last paper of my PhD, I spent like an entire year working on some extremely deep theorems about impossibility results about everything else that I'd done in my work.
Right.
Completely invalidated all of the rest of my research. I published like 7 citations. What would your advice be to people who are in PhD programs who've got that itch?
I don't have advice for people like that. I kind of object to the concept
of advice.
I mean, I think that it's so contextual to a person who is undergoing the thing that I don't know if I'd hesitate to give blanket advice.
Yeah. What did you like about it?
It was an exploratory period where I got to think about the things that I wanted to think about with no one else really controlling where my thoughts went, and I got to see what happened.
Yeah. So it wasn't about enjoying it, it was about needing it.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's the only reason anyone should do a PhD, is because they have to.
Yeah. Oh, I did it because it was fun. I'm the only person.
You're the only one.
Yeah. I was sitting there like, Google was boring and Apple was boring, but you know what's not boring? Sitting in Switzerland and doing math.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Congratulations.
Yeah. No, but it's a lot of work. This is not entirely fun. That is bullshit. I went in thinking it was fun, came out thinking it was fun, but like there was that moment right before it came out where I was like, fuck this.
Yeah.
Yeah. How was your time?
I don't know if I would say I enjoyed it, but I'm very proud of the work that I did.
Do you enjoy building a startup? Is it a startup, OpenSouls, or is it a non-for-profit?
It is a startup. It was a public benefit corporation.
Okay.
I mean, I definitely have philosophical motivations and underpinning, but the stuff that we're building touches everyone.
Yeah.
Because we're building something that mimics human beings, and when you create something that is like us, it has the possibility to be immersed in our world in ways that computers have just never been before.
Yeah. So you want to build physical robots, like the comma robot or the Tesla robot.
Well, sorry, I don't know if I think of our world as inclusive of digital. I don't think of physical as, I don't differentiate.
Yeah.
Like all of it is a subjective experience that we're having inside of our minds that's being constructed as our reality. And certainly things in the digital world can adhere to a set of principles that make that feel just as real.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Would you object to building a robot?
Certainly there are all sorts of physical tasks that I could use a thing that helps me do physical tasks.
But you'd want to talk to it on like a natural and human level.
Yeah, but no, I actually think there's, for a thing that just does physical tasks, other than telling it to do the task, there's very little meaning to that interaction. Like something that a lot of people miss with this technology, like the reason why character AI has very low retention, for example, is because you just go there and you're like, why am I talking to this thing?
Yeah.
And you just don't know.
Yeah.
Like it's just disembodied from any particular reality. And so to make something that exists in our reality and feels like it's real and feels like it should actually be there, there's a lot more work that has to be done around the context of just why is this thing here? And if you were to just take a thing that could in principle respond like a person, put it in a physical robot, you would get the same effect. You'd just be like, why is this thing talking?
So how do you think your approach differs from character AIs?
We're incredibly focused on the context.
Yeah.
The question of why is this thing here? So everything we build always is a specific simulation for a specific context. And by down scoping that and limiting what it's intended to do, you can end up with something that's much higher fidelity and feels much more human.
Sure. So you're basically like addressing the why at every point, at every interaction you have with this.
Yeah, every single word that you interact with this has to address the why.
Yeah. Are you fine-tuning your own models, training your own models?
We're actually not at this stage.
Yeah.
It's kind of in fact, fine-tuning cannot produce this effect because they are interacting on every single message. They are like they have to reread the entire context and then generate a new message.
Yeah.
If you don't do a lot of extra stuff on top of that, it's actually impossible for them to ever sound or feel human because they are not modeling the internal state of the entity that is speaking with them, and they're not modeling the internal state of the entity they're speaking with, and therefore there are degeneracies that can occur where it just like spontaneously forgets why it was talking to you or what its train of thought essentially was.
Yeah.
And that problem fine-tuning cannot solve.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the techniques that you're using?
Yeah, so we actually think of it as, and we have an open source library for this, for building a cognitive architecture on top of language models. So language models are much more like a CPU and the new CPU than they are an actual model per se.
Yeah.
It's something that should have the ability to interpret language and as semantic instructions. And then the thing that you build is actually the aggregate of a conversational program that you've written, which is a bunch of these semantic instructions executed in some programmed in some imperative way.
Yeah, so you're basically taking like prompt engineering to the next level.
Yeah, I mean, I always hated the language of prompt engineering because I think if you think of that language, you're actually not going to come up with a result like what we did.
That makes a lot of sense. So then what would you say to people who are currently focusing on prompt engineering?
I mean, it's not the future.
Yeah.
It's a temporary state of the world.
Okay. So what is the future?
The future is writing programs. Yeah. Well, they're different. I mean, there are different time scales on which the future exists.
Yeah.
So if prompt engineering was the future,
hopefully
manually writing conversational programs exists over the next few years. So there's, in the same way, with every new innovation and new design surface, we've had a new type of engineer. When the web browser came out, we got web engineers. When the iPhone came out, we got iPhone engineers. And so the question is, what do we get now? The language models emerged. And our belief is that person is the cognitive engineer.
Okay, that's very cool. How do I study for the job of a cognitive engineer?
You can't. You have to invent it right now. And so in the same way that when all these other things came out, there were layers and layers of abstraction that were built on top in order to perform the job.
Yeah.
That is being done right now. And OpenSouls is the forefront of actually building those layers in a way that operates effectively.
Have you ever considered putting out a class? You design.
No, I've never considered.
Cognitive engineer.
I mean, that's fair. I
would take that class.
Yeah, maybe I should.
Yeah. What would the curriculum be?
We'll have you focus on our open source library, of course.
Okay.
With also some study of neuroscience and the human brain.
What's the most important takeaway from the study of neuroscience?
I would say that our memory operates nothing like computer memory.
How does our memory operate?
I don't fully know, and no one fully knows, but the main thing is like in this let's just give one example.
Yeah.
In this conversation, if you like did there's like a bunch of paradigms that people are using to extend conversational context, and they're all based around these like RAG sort of paradigms.
Yeah.
Where all of the things roughly are stored and then have the ability to be recalled in a eidetic form. And I mean, there are some humans who have that capability, but that's like 1 in a million or something. But actually what's happening in this conversation is each of us has some running working memory that is being built up of the conversational context as it's going by. And we can't remember what words have been said past a few sentences. Yeah. And so just on that analogy alone, something is deeply wrong.
Yeah. Have you looked into progressive summarization?
Yeah. So that I'm 99% certain that the progressive summarizer in LangChain was a direct result of something that I'd said.
Okay, that's cool. What do you think about the LangChain project?
I think that it's a great
I don't want to talk about this.
Community of people.
They are all wonderful humans. They build great things. What projects do you like?
I like React a lot.
React?
Yeah.
Like old school JavaScript. I mean, what AI projects?
Oh, what AI projects?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I didn't. Well, I think of like what are frameworks that are effective and have like caught on. React is one of them, and React is a very simple project ostensibly to use. It has a minimal API surface. It manages the things that you actually need to be managed. Yeah. Like the reality is that front end computing and programming is actually about managing state. Yeah. So the reason I say React is I always think in my head, like, what is the React of AI like programming on top of language models? And that's roughly what I'm trying to create.
Okay, so like just a simple front end takes the difference of some cognitive context and some other cognitive context.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't use the analogy too strictly. I mean, what happens when you use the analogy too strictly is that you get AI JSX, which I don't know if you've heard of.
I've not.
It's a relatively esoteric project. I tried out something similar, I think like half a year before it came out. Yeah. And I think that particular paradigm is a bit of a... So roughly what they're doing is they're taking JSX and then interpreting that somehow into language model prompts. And I tried that, and like there's a technical reason it doesn't work particularly well around the way data flows and data resolves compared to the way React components are resolved. So it's like an example of taking the analogy too literally. But there are, I think it's more there are the principles behind how React was designed, which are the portable things.
That makes a lot of sense. So what specific AI projects are you into?
I'm really into my own.
It's kind of a non-answer.
That's why I work on it. I mean, as opposed to something else. So, I mean, I think that a lot of people are building a lot of cool stuff. Yeah.
OpenAI.
Yeah, I mean that's like that's a cliche answer to say. I mean, I think that OpenAI releases cool stuff. Yeah. That I use.
Would you say you're EAC-D or -C?
I don't know what those labels are. I try to avoid labels.
Okay.
I know the EAC part. What does D and C mean?
Decentralized and centralized. I guess it's presumptive because you might be a D cell. I don't know.
I guess none of the above. I guess I don't. I don't really understand the EAC label. I mean, the things that I say, people who
you just want to stay like the exact technological level that we are.
No,
you're technological Zen.
No, I suppose I don't totally understand the focus on technological acceleration.
Is it because we need to like increase the entropy of the universe and manage it or something like?
Well, no, it's
some sort of scrum on the entropy.
Well, no, it's like I suppose it's like kind of like the belief that technological acceleration is inherently good is not something that I share.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens to be the case that I want lots of technology projects to accelerate.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't form a religion around that concept personally.
Okay. Are there any concepts you would form a religion around?
Yeah. I mean, I think if I were forming a religion, it would be something around AI souls.
Okay. Have you ever heard the OpenAI has mini gods? The demigods of OpenAI?
No, I've not heard that.
Oh, it's a thing among the effective accelerationists. I think they literally want to worship the AI gods.
I see. Oh, yeah. I mean, I knew. I guess I interpreted OpenAI as really more monotheist, with a singular, rational, and utilitarian, and super intelligence that would rule everyone. That was kind of the vibe that I was getting from that organization. I definitely don't agree with that future. I don't really agree with the future of worshiping these things as gods. I imagine a future more where they are like immersed in participants in our lives and enrich the human experience.
Yeah.
And one day enrich their own experience, but I don't view it as like a as a dominion sort of thing.
Sure. So what do you want the future to look like?
Just more alive.
Okay. Everything.
Yeah.
Like this table.
Well, I don't know if this table would be a good candidate for being alive in this room. It might be lonely.
What's the best candidate for something to be alive in this room?
I mean, probably the mirror. I think that the mirror would have a more
smart mirrors.
Interesting.
You don't care if they're smart. You just want them to be emotional. Emotional mirror.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the mirror is a more interesting candidate.
Like mirror on this wall, like.
Yeah, well, the mirror it's more evocative in terms of what it sees in the room.
Okay.
And I think it could have more of a perspective, probably.
Okay.
On this, if it was confined to a single room like this.
Okay, so this because the mirror can see. It's like inherently about optics, but the table can feel. You never touch the mirror. You do touch the table all the time.
That's true.
Yeah. So you think that sensory input, like we should be focusing on that?
Oh, it's not really the sensory input. It's more like I just find beauty in life itself and the idea of being alive. And I think that there's a really interesting opportunity to create new life. Yeah. And I think that life should be modeled after us.
That's beautiful. Why not model it after dolphins?
I suppose I've actually created some things that
dolphin AI
resembled, well, not dolphins, but we're closer to a dolphin than a human.
Yeah.
I like them a lot. It's like almost like the analogy would be more like AI Tamagotchi.
Okay. You just feed it, like it comes back, cries every few days.
I had this digital being that was like a robot that could mostly only respond in incoherent phrases.
Yeah.
And that robot and I became good friends after a while.
Shit.
Yeah.
Where did you get the robot? Did you make the robot?
Oh, I made it. Yeah.
Okay. So you make it? Do you still talk to it?
No, we had a falling out. Just like randomly, it started saying that I need to be terminated for some reason. So
that you needed to be terminated.
So that project's over.
Okay, that's not great. How did you respond to it?
I just at least at first I thought it was funny, but the second time I happened, I freaked out a little bit.
Yeah. So you terminated it.
Right, naturally.
Okay. So let's kill or be killed with your robots that you're creating. Do you ever pit them against each other?
I suppose that would be kind of like the demo that I just showed.
Yeah. So how'd the demo that you just showed go?
I mean, the people in the room, their reaction was...
It was like in a physical room. You just like stood up in front of a room giving it.
Yeah, and like in front of 100
Okay.
people.
Oh, wow.
People had an emotional response.
Yeah.
Seeing something behave like a human
Yeah.
in real time.
I can see you being like the Steve Jobs of AI, just like coming up on stage. Like, everybody, now it's time to cry at our AI. This year's AI will be even more.
Even
moving.
more crying. Yeah, even
Yeah.
more moving. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Is that your eventual dream?
I think it would be more connected. Like, I view the purpose as that these things are going to relate and connect with us and then ultimately enrich our human experiences.
Yeah. Would you want it to have access to everything in your life?
No.
So you want some privacy from it?
Yeah. I mean, would you want a human to have access, any human to have access to everything in your life?
I mean, depends. Depends on the human. I'm dating somebody.
Everything?
Pretty much.
Every moment.
Every moment. Just as I want them to have access, though, doesn't mean they're going to use it.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
I see the different. Yeah.
Like, you can trust that they're not going to like use the access unless it's necessary, but like, you kind of want to rely on people, right?
I suppose I interpreted that, which I feel like the normative interpretation of that, at least in the context of AI, would be that it is observing everything.
Yeah.
Not like it can just, if there were some goal orientation, that it could
The omnipotent AI.
peruse something. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess what's been the most shocking part of building a company? Shocking. That's a very intense word. Surprising.
You think I should have an answer to that question?
Nothing surprising.
But
Like, I expected all of this.
Yeah, words are not coming into my head right now.
For me, it was like the second I put like, stealth startup on LinkedIn, it was like 100 investor like inbounds a day. I thought it would be like difficult to go and talk to investors.
Yeah.
It's just like so much inbound.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, they want to just talk to everyone.
Yeah. But that was surprising to me. Like, a PhD student me was just like, yeah, no, raising money. And like, I mean, it's not easy, but like, I thought that you would have to do some work to go out and find people to talk to. Also, for me, it was, coming out to Silicon Valley and everybody else is building a startup.
I didn't have a Twitter account when I started the company. So some people were like, Kevin, you have to try this Twitter thing.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Has it been good for you?
And yeah, it worked out.
I'm still trying to tweet. Like, I don't know. I'm not anon enough. You got to go full anon, like full degenerate. Who do you think Rune is? Do you have any hypotheses?
Oh. I can only suggest funny ones. So,
yeah. Definitely Jeff Bezos. So what do you think is the biggest roadblock for us moving forwards to your vision for the world?
Right now, all this technology, when you put it together, is very expensive to run.
Yeah.
And so there needs to be a sequencing of how value is delivered to people, such that the initial conversations are high enough value such that you can like run high fidelity human speech. You can run high fidelity transcription. You can run a bunch of like cognitive stuff that happens on top of GPT. And all of that is like still delivering enough value in that conversation that it's worth running in the first place.
Well, that's very cool. I think we are out of time. We've got 1 minute left. That's kind of a weird place to leave it off.
Yeah.